Per listener's request, I will give you my spoiler-free review of Shazam! Plus, I'll give you my thoughts on the new Jedi Fallen Order trailer. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
It's-a me,
Dario!
Woohoo! Let's go!
As a quick reminder, you can now listen to the podcast officially on SoundCloud and YouTube. You can find it by typing Super Dario World Podcast on the search bar. And I'm still working on getting it on iTunes and the iHeartRadio apps. I guess the more subscribers I have, the easier that process will be. So please subscribe. It'll help me out a lot. Also, as always, please add me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at Dario the Show. You can always contact me there with any comments, questions, suggestions. The feedback continues to be great. Apparently, people really enjoyed The Good, the Bad, and the Martin, so I will do that again next Monday after watch the episode of Game of Thrones. And I will continue testing out new things as I further develop this show. So, okay, let's hit it. The DC superhero film, Shazam! Maintained its #1 spot at the U.S. box office this weekend, and it has been getting great reviews not only from critics but audiences alike. So far, it's made over $200 million worldwide, and it's showing that the DCEU, meaning the DC Extended Universe, is alive and well, even though they tried their best to ruin it by starting it in the worst place possible, which is at the end. You know, take a note from Marvel, guys. If setting up your characters one at a time and making audiences care about that character first was working, don't try to reinvent the wheel, okay? Anyway, it looks like they finally got their act together, and the success of movies like Aquaman, like Wonder Woman, and now Shazam are proving that this formula works, and it gives me hope for the future of the DCEU. Now, about the movie in particular. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, or for those of you who don't know anything about Shazam, I will read you the synopsis straight out of IMDb. So I'm not adding anything, I'm not doing any spoilers, I'm just going to read it exactly as it comes out of IMDb. Here goes. We all have a superhero inside us. It just takes a bit of magic to bring it out. In Billy Batson's case, by shouting one word, Shazam! This streetwise 14-year-old kid can turn into the grown-up superhero, Shazam! Anyway, that's the premise of the movie, and it does follow the standard story arc of a superhero origin story, but with its very own comedic twist. So for those of you who know nothing about the character and who did not understand that premise, basically imagine if a 14-year-old said one word and he turned into Superman. Now, there's variations in the powers, but I won't get into it too much. You can watch it in the movie. But that's pretty much it. And I did have some people ask me, dude, why the hell would DC create a character that's so similar to Superman? And the answer to that is, who buys comic books? Traditionally, and particularly in the time period when this character was introduced, it was young boys. So they created a character that they could see their wildest nerdy dreams come to life. It's very similar to what happened with Spider-Man. Spider-Man was so successful because Peter Parker was a 15-year-old nerd. And who buys comic books? 15-year-old nerdy kids. So it's easier for them to project onto the character. Anyway, the reason I bring that up is because that is kind of the feeling that the movie tries to give its audience. A feeling of, if you were a 14-year-old with superpowers, what would you do? And that is exactly what the movie delivers. Now, let me break it down a little. I had two big concerns going into this movie. The first one is that usually child actors suck. I don't like them. And the second one is that usually adults pretending to be kids or teenagers look stupid. They're too over the top, both ways, and I don't like it. So those were my two big concerns going into the film. The first one starts kind of rough because there is a kid in the beginning of the film who is a terrible actor. Kid, you need to go get more lessons. I'm sorry. Do better. But the rest of the cast is really good. I particularly enjoyed the little girl who plays Darla. She's the youngest. If you see the movie, you'll immediately know who she is. She's the little African-American girl. She was hysterical. The kid who does the best job, though, is the kid who plays the best friend, Freddie Freeman. He's hysterical. They give him really dark lines to work with, really dark comedy. I really enjoyed his performance. And the kid who plays Billy Batson, the main character, this movie, I have to say, it has a lot of heart. It has a lot of drama in it, too. So the kid handles the comedy well and carries the dramatic weight of the movie really well. So first concern alleviated, right? Let's move on to number two. grown-ups kind of looking stupid when they pretend to be kids. Now, there's a few exceptions for this. An example would be Tom Hanks in Big or Robin Williams in Jack. So there are people who have done it. It's just that they're few and far between. Anyway, so I was concerned, but not too much, because Zachary Levi, or Zach Levi, who plays the adult version of Shazam, is kind of a big kid. I remember him from Chuck. That was a TV show. I liked him. I thought he was really funny, so I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. That's why I went to see the movie, and that's why I was excited for it. And the guy knocks it out of the park. The movie is freaking hysterical. Once he hits the screen, the movie doesn't freaking stop. At first, it's kind of weird. Honestly, the vibe is kind of weird. But once he hits the screen, you understand the whole vibe that we're going for. And it is great. At first, I remember when I watched the trailers and I thought, all these jokes are so stupid. It's, oh my God, DC, why are you doing this to yourself? The jokes are so stupid. But every single joke you see on the trailer is immediately followed up by a kind of dark teenager snarky response or another type of darker joke. So it's great because they save all their best jokes for the big screen. Now, usually trailers, they show you kind of like the funniest moments of comedies and stuff like that. But this one, no. They show you the setup for the joke. And it's great because every single time I was seeing one of those, this happens in the trailer, boom, it's immediately rebounded by something even better that I never saw coming. So I loved the comedy in this movie. It was handled extremely well. It's a great superhero origin story because it has an interesting twist. And when you walk out of the movie, you're walking out thinking like, yeah, I totally would have done that. Totally. Dude, if I was a kid, I would have totally have done that. Even worse, probably. So it is by no means a perfect movie. In fact, they do something that really annoys me that I hate when they do in any movie ever. It makes my blood boil. But the comedy more than makes up for it. It has, like I mentioned before, it has a lot of heart. It's really, really well acted. And I don't want to get into the technical details of the movie. And the suit actually doesn't look as stupid as I thought it would look. It actually, at one point, you don't even think about it. Because also that was another concern. But it is a cheesy movie, but they embrace it. And I appreciate that. That's one of the things that I liked about Aquaman. People criticized that it was too cheesy. I was like, no, it aimed to be cheesy. That was its purpose. They're like, we have a dude who talks to fish. We can't make this serious. So they aim for the cheese. Shazam does something similar. They aim for the cheese. And I think they nailed it. It's a cheesy movie with a snarky teenager undertone. It's great. I highly recommend it. I gave it an 8 out of 10, and I stand by it. And it was also way better than Captain Marvel, so there you go. Anyway, that was my spoiler-free review of Shazam. Let's move on to Jedi Fallen Order. Now, last week it was announced by EA Star Wars that a new Star Wars video game was coming out titled Jedi The Fallen Order. And not much was known about it until they released a trailer yesterday during the Star Wars celebration in Chicago. So for those of you who haven't watched the trailer, I highly recommend it. It's great. It's a story trailer. For those of you who don't want to watch it, I'll just briefly tell you what it's about. The story takes place after the events of the Revenge of the Sith, and it follows a young Padawan called Cal Kestis, I hope that's how you say his name, who survived Order 66. We don't know how, and he's trying his best to survive in a world where Jedi are still being hunted down by Darth Vader, his Inquisitors, and Purge Troopers. So I love the premise. I've always been really curious of what happened in between Episode 3 and Episode 4. How is it that the Empire took over? You get to see the Empire take over the galaxy, how it expanded, how the Emperor seized more and more power. So I'm very interested to see all of that. And the idea of being a Jedi who's being hunted down by Darth Vader, who may or may not show up in the game, it still hasn't been confirmed, is really exciting. Like, that is a great premise. Do you guys remember the scene in Rogue One where Darth Vader shows up in a hallway? Freaking terrifying, right? So I'm excited for it. There's not much details about it other than the story trailer and the release date, which is November 11th of 2019. It'll come out for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. But EA, the studio behind it, has confirmed that it will not have microtransactions or a multiplayer mode, which is something that a lot of players have criticized EA for in the past. So I like the guy who they picked as the main character. The actor's name is Cameron Monaghan. He plays the Joker in the Gotham TV series. He also appears in Shameless as the character Ian. So he's really good. He's really versatile. And I'm a fan of them getting big-name actors for video games, honestly. As long as it doesn't affect the gameplay, I'm happy for it. I mean, I don't know. He's not a huge name, but I mean, Shameless is pretty big, and Gotham's pretty big. So I enjoy the trend, is my point. Especially for a story-driven video game, because it makes it feel like you're acting out a movie or something, like you're living it out more, if that makes any sense. I also like video games and stories that you know are probably going to end badly. Well, tragedies. They're called tragedies, but I like tragedies. And a good example of this is Halo Reach in the video game world. For those of you who didn't play it, I'm not going to go through the whole story of it, but basically, Reach is a planet that at the start of the very first Halo game has been destroyed. So when you play Halo Reach, you go back to how that planet was destroyed. So you know something tragic is going to happen, and you know you may or may not be a part of it, and you know that the character that you're using may or may not die in it, which is one of the things that made Rogue One great. You didn't know who was going to make it at the end, or if anybody was going to make it at the end. Basically, I'm talking about consequences. There are real consequences for the characters in that story. There's nothing more annoying for me than when I start a story and I know that the main character is going to be totally fine at the end. I hate it. That's why I have an issue with prequels, unless they're made with completely new characters. But anyway, that's a rant for another day. The point is, for this video game, it sounds exciting. The Star Wars universe is vast and very rich, and I don't feel like it's been taken advantage of enough in the video game world. There's a few great titles. I particularly love Republic Commando. That may be my favorite one. And I'm still holding out hope that one day they'll bring out the sequel, because it kind of ended in a cliffhanger. But anyway, I will keep you posted on more video game related information, because I had a lot of people telling me, like, dude, your podcast is called Super Dario World and you haven't talked about a single video game yet? Give me time here, people. It's only episode 3, all right? I'm still figuring things out. So I will eventually incorporate more stuff. Maybe I'll have one day specifically for video games. You don't know. And yet you're attacking me. Anyway, that was it for today. Let me know what you thought of any of those ideas at Dario the Show on Instagram. So you can send me comments, questions, suggestions, anything there. All feedback is great. Also, let me know what you thought of Shazam. I'm curious. Did I oversell it? Was I completely wrong? Do I not have any idea what I'm talking about? Let me know. Thanks for listening.